I want to welcome you back, but this time to a special edition at the Beverage Forum episode of Pivotal. But don't worry, these pieces of conversational content are still focused on tackling impactful CPG industry subject matter and lessons from the business leaders that live it every day. As the largest proposed supermarket merger in US history remains expectedly tied up because of an ongoing FTC antitrust lawsuit, it's totally understandable that speculation continues to build around if a combined Kroger Albertsons will have a significant effect on how CPG brands do business with the new retailer. And while I have a multitude of my own theories on how this mega merger plays out, worrying about my version of the history isn't as actionable as hearing today's reality directly from a source. That's why I asked the VP of National Merchandising at Albertsons Companies, Buster Houston, to break down many important art and science aspects of the grocer's merchandising strategy, including his locally great and nationally strong metric. We also talked through how startup CPG brands can improve their attractiveness when trying to court Albertsons, but also what it takes to outperform competitors when given store placements. Additionally, we run through a few recent standout CPG brands that exceeded expectations, including how the grocer partnered with Mr. Beast for one of his most viral YouTube videos. Our conversation was fast-paced, entertaining, and filled with lots of insight. So I hope you enjoy. But without further delay, here is the recent conversation I had with my good friend, Buster Houston.
So I don't normally do like a very official introduction because that's not my style. Obviously with the backwards hat and this is kind of how I roll.
Good.
So I wanted to specifically talk to you because I think I do a terrible job, unfortunately, at not giving the retail perspective on a lot of stuff. I think I sometimes will do a little bit on my own, which is not the authentic voice. You're the authentic voice. Like you're the one that should be telling brands, oh, how can you be successful in our store? What separates when you actually get on shelf, from being a dud to a star. Those types of questions. So I think one of the things that with Albertsons Company that I loved in terms of at least the merchandising side is like you guys give the local banners like a little bit of like what's doing well there, but also from a national perspective, like what's crushing it, like how do we work together with making sure that we have the right stuff in certain regions, but also how do we carry the stuff that's going to be good. And I know there's a internal branding of what you guys call that, and I'm like, what is that called?
Our model is fantastic. It's locally great and nationally strong, right? And we bring the best of both is what we think, right? So when it comes to big CPGs that everybody in every market has, we like to use our size and scale in those relationships. It's pretty consistent across the board when you think of some of these big brands. But to your point earlier, we've got these micro markets where there's so much happening, and not just in a division, but in a pocket, right? I mean, when you think of some of these categories, a zip code could have a brand that's super relative, right? You get into some of these cool categories, like seriously, like honey. Honey, right? There's a farm down the street here that's got honey. It'd be really cool in these 3 stores. So it works really cool how we collaborate with the divisions and us as a national team to build this model. It's a super collaborative model, but it's been very effective for us to manage the size and scale that we have and we can leverage, but to also make sure that we're bringing in all the partners that are relevant to our shoppers in a small segment or in a little bit larger segment, meaning a division, or even a sub-banner here like Pavilions, which is a premium for us.
I'm thinking about, you mentioned like the small purveyor or, what is the term for a bee farm?
Imagine what a bee sees. They have like 80 eyeballs on each side. They probably see wild shit. Matt, what does reality look like to a bee?
You can't ask me. That's going to be a tough one.
I know. I told you
layups.
I said layup questions.
No
I
tough questions.
was like, what is that called? But like, I'm thinking about
a hivery. Is it a hivery? No, I don't think so.
I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking about, even on my panel, we had Quentin Venny from Equity. Like the story of behind the brand is so powerful. It's, the liquid's great, all these things, but then it's the story that separates the brand. And I think what you mentioned, like how does some of that break through from the local side to the national, like is there some of that consideration where you guys can kind of get into the human messiness of it? Because I think there's obviously the blocking and tackling decisions, but then there's that, hey, we want to spotlight this, or we want to give this some breadth because we think it's super important for us as a national organization.
Absolutely. You know, we're blessed with a very large, powerful platform, right? All of us, right? The vendor community and us. And we want to leverage that, and we want to bring out these messages. The challenge you have today is just a shopper sits at the shelf for about 3 seconds or less, right? So that's why we love these relationships with the influencers and these other areas that can bring education and communication from outside just the walls of our store. There are things we can do at point of purchase. There are things we can do in print. But in general, the message of why you should buy this and why this is a great thing, whether it be an attribute in a product or the mission behind a product, or both, right? So the fun thing for me is the old days, this was just easy. How much money can I get and how much can I sell? Now it's just such a fun game, right? Because the give backs, the missions, all the ESG components of these things. Your panel today was great, talking about, you know, health and wellness, right? And how these beverages or whatever the products may be can give back. So it's a very fun time in this business. We've obviously got to manage all the components, right? We obviously run a for-profit business, but there's so many great things we can do, and we're really proud of what's been happening lately with the Albertsons companies.
Now I want to think about kind of all of those. You said it's fun, but it's also kind of a little bit complex because there's so many different data points to consider. Like when you are considering somebody into the system, like what are those like top things that are, I guess, below the typical kind of price and, you know, things that you guys have to check the boxes on? Are there things like you said, is it sometimes influencers or just like social followings? Is it story? Is it, you know, something that has a social purpose? You know, are those things like usually higher up there, or is there something that you like when you're looking at a deck or somebody's coming in to pitch you, you're like, okay, here's these, they check the boxes, they're good?
The art and the science of this business is a fun piece. It's a fun thing to talk about because it's organic. I mean, the conversations by vendor or organic. So, you know, when they come in, I don't have a preconceived notion of what may or may not happen, okay? There's also just segments that intrigue me. So if you think of our chat about Mr. Beast relationship, his audience is an audience that's very valuable to us, that we want them to get to know us. Gen Z and maybe a little bit of Gen Alpha. I want them in our stores. I want them to get to know us. I want their baskets to build with us. I want all of that. I want to get them in. The missions are fantastic. The missions, it's such a beautiful platform we have where our size and scale and a vendor's relationships, or one of our relationships we have on the outside for giving, where we amplify something together and we incentivize our shoppers to do it and get them excited about it. So yeah, we'll cut you a little break on the price, but let's talk about what we'll do with 10% of the proceeds. Or this or that. The mission of those is beautiful, and we've had a really good run over this last year or two, and we'll continue to do that. So as we meet with a vendor, it's really a clean slate, right? It's a white paper, and it's just fun to land where we are. And when we talk about ESG, it's so vast. There's so many components to it, whether it be the environment, whether it be people, all of those kind of topics, just straight up sustainability. It's fun to meet, understand what matters to you. I know what matters to us, and finding a way to amplify them together. Really fun.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned like just the art and the science, I always think with CPG, it's really like a different, obviously, art form, but like these entrepreneurs are you know, their creativity is coming out in this like physical, and a lot of times packaged form. And I'm thinking about when it's on shelf, I mean, you are kind of that, you know, art curator, collector. It's like, okay, we don't want everything to look similar. We also want to have some cohesiveness to it. I'm thinking about, you know, when it's there, how does somebody break through and how do they become that star? Like say they're already on shelf, like what is some of those things that, you know, that separates the, you know, the people that are just gonna, you know, kind of just be there, and the ones that are obviously gonna get incremental space for you guys and just gonna be that person that you guys could like lean into and support and try to get their, you know, their brand to be the next one. Because I mean, you guys have the power to really like create just a completely different trajectory of a business with just a matter of like, you know, zoning them the next brand.
I think one of the first things for me is the believability, whether it be an influencer or a brand of, you can feel the passion.
Yeah, check
right?
their bullshit. If like, are you in
right,
it for the right
right.
reasons or
We
not?
can swear on this one? Can we
Yeah,
swear
well,
on
yeah,
this?
you
Oh,
can do.
that's
Yeah, this
awesome.
is your
That's
latitude.
no. The believability, right? And it doesn't take long when you're sitting across the table for somebody to figure out if this is just kind of a hobby or I want a quick play here and make some money, or if I'm in. And especially from the influencer side, you can just start asking them some questions.
Yeah.
And the way that their feedback comes to you is you can tell, are they serious or are they not, right? I'm not a big fan of just throwing a name out there and them taking a picture with the product and I never see them again, right? I want you to be active. I want you to be talking about me because I want to be talking about you, right? It's got to be a win-win for both of us. The second thing is, you know, we've got the brick and mortar. We've obviously got the Omni, and within the brick and the mortar, I've got a shelf. But then I've got other things I can do. I've got a front end that has a whole bunch of foot traffic in it. I've got end caps, which gets a lot of visibility. So, you know, if you're in one of these categories that may not get the most eyeballs up and down the aisles, I have ways to get people to look at them, right? So there's a lot of really cool avenues to communicate out on these. The big brands are the big brands. They're going to get print, they're going to get price, they're going to get display for obvious reasons. These other brands are the things that I think can be differentiators, right? These are the things I can get my neighbor to talk to their neighbor. I can get you to talk to your friends. Did you see that at Albertsons, right? It's really cool. That's really our intent, is to continue to bring in new households and a new generation of shopper for us. So it's a really fun time.
Now you mentioned Feastables, Mr. Beast, but like outside of them, or you know, you can maybe talk a little bit more about that. Like you said, yeah, you have to stock the big brands. You got to stock them. The people come in for those, but that incrementality of bringing in new customers that maybe have never shopped at any of the Albertsons banners, like how, like, are there any of those brands I think that you've spotted or that you guys like can kind of talk about past that? I know the Feastables, Mr. Beast, you guys have done some really unique stuff, and that's probably a an outlier perspective. But I think, is there anything that's like caught your eye recently that like, wow, they have done way better than we thought, because all of a sudden we have all these new people coming in here that are different, that are going to be, you know, something that we can keep within our system for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, a lot of these decisions you make without data, right? Because we're before the party starts, right? That's why how these are fun, is the point of differentiation is me taking a risk and bringing something in that there's a lot of data not to tell me to do. We're big fans of Emma Chamberlain's coffee. That's in all of our stores. And it's fun to look at these things that, you know, we obviously care about sales and profit and all those important things we do, but to look at new to category and new to store when you bring in some of these brands from a household perspective, because consumer-centric retailing is the way this is and the way we need to think, it's fun. And when you think of someone like Emma's got a very defined following. And when we look at the data 60 days after we sell it, it's very, very exciting for us to see what it's done to bring in some new friends to our stores. Jimmy, Mr. Beast, same exact story. We're learning a lot, right? We're learning a lot. These influencers have been fun. There's going to be one that we're all going to miss on. There is, right? I would tell you Prime would be one that we came a little later to the party, but once we got in the party, we were in, right? So it's something we love to be proactive as much as possible, but it's just a whole new world, right? It's a whole new world in there. So we'll continue to evolve. And I'd say course correct as we go, but this is a lot different than the business that I was in about 10 years ago managing categories. It's just a lot different. And I'd say for good reasons. For good reasons.
It's awesome. I think, I mean, I gave you as much layups as I could. I think I think you alley-ooped and slammed most of them. That bee farm thing, I don't. We'll
probably have to Google that or something.
Somebody drop a comment below in the. I don't like. If you know what that is. I mean, like.
We're very intrigued for the answer.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. If you did, considering that like button to support me also help me get to my new short-term goal of 4,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to see you join me on this journey, but we need to fix the fact that just slightly more than 90% of you that are watching this YouTube video right now are not subscribed to my channel, and that makes me extremely sad. But I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.